Good morning. Welcome to day 28, Quantum's Liberty. Good morning, buddies, of the DeStress series. Today on the phone I have Amelia and we have Juliette, and they are from Oklahoma, 6 years old, and very good friends. So in Oklahoma, so Juliette moved from New Jersey to Oklahoma, and she and Amelia are really good friends. We have everybody. We have a bunch of parents and aunts and uncles and girlfriends and people who are here with Amelia and Juliette today because of some start tapping, because we're talking about an issue that happened at school. So Amelia is on the phone with us right now. Good morning, dear. And she's really good friends with Juliette. And Juliette moved from New Jersey. We have all the grown-ups in that they love. And thank you so much. We're doing some tapping together because Juliette, her family knows Mr. Sicknick. And so at the school, that's where the professors and the classmates and the families can talk about things that happen in the news. So since this is a DeStress series, when we're doing our tapping, we can have the images of things that have happened in the news go through our mind and our brain, and instead of our brain sending all these impulses to the amygdala, which tells us to be afraid and run from, the danger, the saber-toothed tiger back then, or the woolly mammoth, right? Those big creatures that were very dangerous to the cavemen and women and kids. And so we needed to have that impulse to run when necessary. Right now, we are exposed to many things that make us want to run, right, Amelia? So we're actually talking about something that happened at school, and Amelia and all of her her wonderful adult friends are tapping along because we're going to help Juliette to process and to hear the truth about something that happened to her friend, Mr. Sicknick. So Juliette's going to come in a minute, and what we're going to do is everybody's going to tap because the kids at school, right, Amelia? They were talking about, what did they think, because they heard on the news that Mr. Sicknick was living in New Jersey, and that's where Juliette was from. So they said that, he was hit with a fire extinguisher and he passed away. And so Juliette didn't believe that. So the parents, everybody's tapping there, and we're going to have Juliette come in, and they're going to tell her, yes, that actually did happen. That was the truth. Right, so Amelia and I talked a little bit already. We're going to be doing the tapping because when we're tapping on this point, and you can do this point over here on this side, right? We talked about this. You can go like this, you can go like this, you can go like that, right? So we're going to be tapping on these points because these 5,000-year-old acupuncture points, these meridian endpoints, what they do is they slow down the firing of the neurons to the amygdala, which makes us run from danger. And instead of having that oxygen go to the arms and legs so we can run from danger, it stays in our prefrontal cortex. So we can actually see the good and the things that happen that Officer Sicknick stood up for and he helped our country in a very, very big, profound way. But first of all, the tapping is for tapping on the trauma. So we're going to have Juliette is going to come in, and her mom and dad are going to tell her the truth that yes, and Amelia, you can help her too, that yes, if you want to, we already talked about this in advance, and so this is about helping Juliette and Amelia to process this. So let's start tapping on the inside of the eye. What we know is that a great many things happened, right? Governor Chris Christie, he was in New Jersey, and he's really good friends with Mr. Trump before he was president, and also now that he is the president. So we're tapping on all these points, right? Just follow along, because all this tapping is going to help us to have the images in our mind of what happened and talk about the news and how violent it was, and to look inside of us and know that inside of every single one of us, when we understand what we are, we have these different emotions inside of us. So remember, Amelia, what we were talking about is that everybody, they can't do something bad to another person unless they had that bad thing done to them, right? So that guy that hit the officer with the fire extinguisher, he saw that somewhere. Either that, he had the violence inside of him because he saw it, right? And President Trump, we had a really, really good insight. This is like different eyes, right? You have the eyes that you can see, but sometimes we don't see everything clearly. Like, for instance, President Trump didn't see clearly that coronavirus was here, right? I remember when he first started talking about it, and his eyes almost got a little clouded over because it was a little bit too much for him to think about, right? So even though the scientists and all the data was coming from Italy at that time, they were saying the way to help to have the coronavirus, not have too many people die from it, is to put on a mask and to socially distance. Italy was on lockdown, right? And then everybody was staying away from each other. And in that way, there wouldn't be too many people who were going into the hospital with the coronavirus. So one of the things that President Trump was like, he was telling everybody, you have to fight because this coronavirus is fake. It's not real. It's not a real thing. Well, now, I am a 35-year critical care nurse and Ebola fighter. And so the first thing that happened with coronavirus was there wasn't enough of the stuff to protect the nurses and the doctors. And when we were fighting Ebola, we wore 2 of everything. Yes, I know it was really hot under all of that, but we didn't know how to cure it, how we could get people to live from it. So we wore 2 of everything. And then the nurses and the doctors, they had to share 1 mask for 3 days. They would tape it on the outside of a patient's room because there wasn't enough with coronavirus. So it was very, 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 and it is very, very, very scary. We have to have enough to protect the healthcare workers so they can protect the public. So the way the public can protect the healthcare workers is by wearing masks and staying socially distanced, and also washing your hands for 20 seconds with soap. Now, the interesting thing about where Amelia is and where Juliette is that their governor doesn't think anybody has to wear a mask. And the big deal is that people like to listen to their policymakers. They trust them. And the other thing is, we also have to inform our policymakers with the correct science so that they can know what to do next. The really cool thing, about what Governor Chris Christie did was he said that I'm really good friends. I've always been friends with Mr. Trump. And then the president, that's his friend. And he said he does not like defeat. He does not like to be defeated. And so when coronavirus came in, that was very, very scary. And sometimes people close those eyes and can't see what they have to see. They're just like, oh, no. And this happens all the time. You have to be able to look inside your heart. You have to be able to look inside there and understand what is going on inside your heart. And tapping gives you a space to be able to tap on any kinds of things inside of you, like Mr. Trump, Donald Trump, the president. He had an experience as a kid or when he was a little bit older that made him afraid and not like to be defeated. Maybe it made him feel embarrassed. Maybe it made him feel sad. Maybe it made him feel angry and upset. Somebody did something really bad to him that made it hard for him to say, I can't lose. I cannot lose. We have to win, always. I have to win. And that's not the way life is, because sometimes life throws things at us that you have to bend a little bit. You have to dissolve the lines. And actually what Mr. Sicknick did when he went and he fought, he actually allowed there to be a space where Republicans and Democrats came together in that space, very close, and they talked. And they were able to say, it is the truth. Coronavirus is real. It's really, truly real. And so one thing that happened out of that was it brought people together, right? So Mr. Trump said, everybody go to the Capitol because coronavirus is fake, right? So this is our Declaration of Independence. And this is our Constitution, right? We have this thing that says, when in the course of human events, keep on tapping, all right? If it becomes necessary to dissolve the bonds, right? The lines in between us, that if one person says coronavirus isn't real, we just have to look at the science and all the healthcare workers. And I understand that if you don't see it, and you don't hear your friends around the country talking about this, like I was a traveling nurse, so my friends around the country were saying, this is what's going on. But so Donald Trump and Mike Pence didn't think that it was really real, but it is. So what it says right in the first 3 lines of our Constitution here is that when and amongst the powers of the earth, the separate and equal, it's hard to read it because it's very tricky writing, the old-fashioned writing. And this is important, to which the laws of nature and of nature's God unite them. Right there. Second line. The laws of nature in coronavirus are telling us that we need to do some really important things. And Officer Sicknick, Mr. Sicknick, was helping to protect the public and to protect the policymakers who were going to be presenting some policies so that we can all get through this together. Now, the really cool thing, so Donald Trump, President Trump, told everybody, because he believes that, he can't lose, right? That's what his best friend said, is Chris Christie. So when we know that about him, then we know that it's not about us, right? And we know, and the interesting thing is Mike Pence, so probably Mr. Christie went and talked with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump told everybody to stop the violence, right? He said that. It was late, but he looked inside his heart and he saw that they were being too violent, that what happened was not what he wanted to have happen, because he saw inside of his heart also that he had love. Maybe his wife talked to him. Now the people who were driven, so Juliette's going to come in, and Amelia and her classmates said, you know, the truth to Juliette, but Juliette didn't want to believe that. So all the adults are tapping, and we're all going to tap while they talk with Juliette. And she's come, here she is. Hi, sweetheart. Hi, we're doing the tapping with Amelia, and we're going to talk about the things that, so your family and Amelia, they're going to tell you about Mr. Sicknick, and we're going to tap so that we can help you hear about this. All right. So Amelia and her mom are telling Juliette, yeah, it was very, very violent. They didn't think the virus was real, so they told everybody to go and get into the Capitol right away. Mr. Sicknick was helping them to protect everybody so that we would know that we have to wear masks with coronavirus. It's in the Constitution. When the laws of nature say that we have to change and we have to dissolve those bonds and we have to do what nature intends for us to do so that we can have life and liberty and the pursuit of freedom. The man who hit him was he had the same thing. Nobody can do something like that unless they had that done to them. Or if they're sick, like they play football and they have that CTE. Yeah. Juliette's crying. Amelia's hugging her. Good girl, sweetheart. Yeah, you guys heard it on the news. This is her friend, sweetheart. Yes, you hug her. Yes, this man had something done like that to him. Nobody can do something like that unless they had it done to them.